the business session of the June 21st, 2022 to order at 6:11 p.m. All council members are present except Mayor Meek. We welcome all of our guests and visitors. We provide an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on any agenda item or during the hearing of visitors portion of the agenda. On items other than public hearings, speakers will be allotted 1 3-minute presentation, regardless of the number of agenda items the speaker wishes to address. If you are here to speak and have not filled out a registration card, please see the City Secretary staff at the registration table outside of the auditorium so that staff can contact you if necessary. If you have handouts, please let us know at the beginning of your presentation and staff will distribute those to the council. If you are unable to approach the podium due to physical limitations, a microphone is available to be brought to you. I have some cards at my place for the following public hearings. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first item of business is to consider the minutes of the June 7th, 2022 regular City Council meeting. These minutes were provided in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections?
No.
All right, hearing none, we will move on to proclamations. If the Honorable Josh Borderud will meet me down at the podium. So tonight I have the distinct honor of celebrating one of our own. Councilmember Josh Borderud, in addition to serving on Waco City Council, is also an incredible asset as a lawyer in our community. And in 2020, he received the award for the 2020 Sandra Day O'Connor Award for Professional Service from the American Inns Court at the Supreme Court. And so we just wanted to take a moment to recognize him and his family and give him a moment to say some words.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. This was the honor of a lifetime to receive this award at the United States Supreme Court this last March with my wife, Jennifer Borderud. And I'd be remiss, though, not to share gratitude for that wonderful award with Professor Bridget Fusilier, Professor Tom Featherston, Dean Brad Tobin, all of Baylor Law School, Judge Christopher Taylor, who was here earlier tonight, Judge Gary Coley of the 74th District Court, our student volunteers who work in our clinical programs, our volunteer lawyers. I definitely want to thank the legacy of my parents, Scott and Carol Borderud, my beautiful and wise wife, Jennifer Borderud, and my kids, RC and Lily, and my church family, Calvary Baptist. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time for this.
All right, we will now transition to the public hearing portion of our meeting, which will be led by Clint Peters, Director of Development Services.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider a resolution approving the following subdivision plats. Final plat of the D. Donaldson Edition, lots 5 through 9, block 1, and preliminary plat of the Castle Rock Edition. By a vote of 10-0, the Plan Commission recommended that the subdivision plats be approved.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? All right, we will open a public hearing for comments. Is there anyone here to speak? Okay. Seeing as no speakers, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I move for approval.
Second. Discussion? Please hold the council.
Bearfield? Yes. Rodriguez? Aye. Borderud?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Holmes?
The next item to consider is public hearing 2022-366.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, amending the concept plan of the plan unit development known as the Saddle Creek PUD located along north side of China Spring Road, east of Saddle Creek Road, to allow climate-controlled self-storage facilities in a portion of area previously designated for office and commercial use, and to change a portion of an area previously designated as multifamily residential use to office use, and adding a .047 acre tract out of the James Lane Survey, abstract number 531, being a part of 39.01 acre tract to the PUD, rezoning the .047 acre tract from R1B to PUD, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finding determined that this meeting is open, at which this ordinance is passed, is open to the public as required by law.
Are there any questions for staff? All right, we will now open the public hearing for comments. Is there anyone here to speak on this agenda item? Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
So, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. My name is Robert Horton with Horton TX. Address is 3815 Lisbon Street, Suite 201 in Fort Worth, Texas. I come before you tonight to ask for approval of a mixed-use development. Phase 1 of this will be a climate-controlled self-storage facility, fully enclosed, no drive-up units, no outside storage. We refer to this as a level 3 facility, which is very heavy on security and access. You have access coming into the facility at the gate where you're captured by camera and key code. Every entrance on the facility has a key code and camera, so we can track our customers from the time they enter the property, through the property, and back out. We offer other amenities to the facility. We have music throughout as kind of a calming effect for customers. We offer insurance for all of our customers, full service supplies and moving equipment. We are builders and owners of these facilities. We're developing this 7-acre tract. We'll have 3 retail pads, office retail, and the storage is about a 50-50 concept, but we're not merchant builders. We build these and hold them long-term, so we have a long-term interest in the market and in the facility. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the development.
Any questions for our speaker? All right, is there anyone else here to speak on this item? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please hold the council.
Bearfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Borderoot,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
The next item to consider is public hearing 2022-367.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider a resolution granting a special permit to D&V Chicken, Inc. for a restaurant in C2 district, providing goods and services directly to the customers and motor vehicles outside of an enclosed structure adjacent to a lot used for residential purposes on property described as Lots 3, Block 1 of the C.R. Collier addition known as 3509 North 19th Street. By a vote of 9-0 with 1 abstention, Plan Commission recommended approval of the request based on the following findings. 1, the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the purposes and intent of Chapter 28 zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco. 2, the proposed use is compatible with appropriate and orderly development of the area which is located. 3, the proposed use will not be more objectionable to neighboring properties because of traffic congestion, noise, fumes, vibrations, or any other characteristics than any use permitted in the zoning district without the granted special exception. And 4, that available community facilities and services, including the road system, providing access to the proposed use are adequate for the proposed use.
Are there any questions for staff? We will now open the public hearing for comments. Is there anyone here registered to speak on this item? If no, seeing no speakers, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez. Wateroo,
Yes.
Holmes. Palmer.
Yes. The next item to consider is public hearing 2022-368.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the city of Waco, Texas, creating a planned unit development and approving the concept plan for the PUD and changing the zoning classification from R1B to a planned unit development on certain property described as property located southeast of Park Lake Drive and North 19th Street, being described as 35.859 acres situated in the John Stevens Survey, Abstract 784, McLennan County, Texas, embracing all of the called 35.853 acre tract conveyed to BP Texas Commercial LLC, a Texas limited liability company, clerk's file number 2016-003866, of the official public records of McLennan County, Texas, property ID 330221, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties, providing a severability clause, and finally determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. We did receive a request from the applicant to continue this public hearing to the July 5th council meeting. Staff does recommend approval of that continuance. Council will need to have a hearing on the request to continue first.
We will now open the public hearing on the continuance. Is there anyone here specifically to address the continuance of this hearing? Yes. May I approach the podium? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Janine McMeans, 3413 Edward Drive. Actually, we would like to request that it be pushed back to an even later date, July the 19th. The reasoning be, it's been in the newspapers that we were going to have this meeting on the 21st this evening. People have arrived. It was suddenly put on us for July the 5th. We don't have time for a lot of questions to be answered. Our neighborhood meeting has a lot of questions, and we want to give you time to consider the answers to these questions. First, we're asking preservation of the Cameron Park as this development is considered. Has the council, because if it becomes a PUD, have you thought through the preservation of Cameron Park? Specifically, have you walked the trails, seen the erosion because of water runoff and overuse, and do we want to add to that? What about the river and the surrounding residential and commercial developments? How will the river be impacted anytime you have any development within proximity to Cameron Park? Do you know the quality of the stormwater runoff that occurs when there's more concrete from roads, driveways, and sidewalks? Did you know that the monarch butterflies, as they stop through Waco, they land in Cameron Park as they migrate to Mexico? Have we considered these types of preservations when you decide to approve any type of PUD or any development that is within proximity to Cameron Park or the Brazos River? Another question, giving you time, would be to ask you about planning. Are you requiring PUDs as they impose, are you making sure that they're not having more negative impacts on already existing problems? Are you asking these hard questions? The roads, the surrounding quiet streets, there's already traffic, there's already potholes. How will the roads be impacted? Do you see the patchwork that's already done? Have you walked those streets? Do you want to add to any current problems? So take time for these questions because they're being asked by a lot of people that go beyond the neighborhood. In fact, there's been rumors of a petition that's going to be going out there in order to talk about this development. And secondly, are you giving yourself time to even pause and to consider other possibilities? Why 151? Why the density? Why not 70? And if it's about housing diversity, I promise you it's not checking the box. These are going to be expensive townhomes, expensive houses, and expensive land. It is not addressing the housing needs. Have you thought clearly and given yourself time? So we are asking actually that it gets pushed back to July the 19th to give our neighbors time to visit and for others in the city to have a new date.
Thank you. Next on deck, I have David Mills.
Hi, my name is David Mills. I live at 2929 Robin. I understand that
this discussion is only with regard to the continuance, not the actual PUD details. So I've prepared 3 minutes worth for that. So I'll speak very briefly right now on the continuance. As Janine says, all of us in the neighborhood would prefer and appreciate a later date than the 5th. The 5th specifically conflicts with a called neighborhood meeting, and it also, I think, although we understand that the developer believes there will be more council people present, and the mayor, I don't know, we really want to be heard. We want as many of us to be there as possible. A number of us came ready to speak tonight. If this is turned down, I'm ready to speak. But I think you'll have even more participation from the neighbors and more thoughtful, considered participation from the neighbors once we know a little bit more, and we've had a month to consider. So if there is going to be a continuance, please make it for the 19th. I believe that is the next day after the 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Lauren Woodruff. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Yes, my name's Lauren Woodruff. I live at 3313 Adeline Drive, which is approximately 1,040 feet from a trailhead into Cameron Park. I will reiterate what my neighbors have said in that we would like more additional time to consider this, more time for the traffic study to be completed and for us to be able to see those results. I do have other points to make if we do move forward with the vote this evening, but thank you very much for your time. We'd appreciate some additional time to consider.
Thank you. Next, I have Jennifer Warren. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
My name's Jennifer Warren. I live at 3312 North 15th A Street, Waco, Texas. I live on the border of Cameron Park, but needless to say that my street in the 57 years I've been alive, I've lived there almost all but 13 years of my life. And the traffic has increased fivefold, and that is even before you consider this piece of property. I'm for less, not more development. Why not 50 houses? And how is this going to address your need for housing? Because as my neighbors have stated, this is more expensive property. I myself cannot even afford to buy one of these homes, even though I would love to be in the park further. So also, I'd like to address to Mr. Peters and whoever is on staff, I'd like a copy of the traffic report that was supposedly done for 15 8th Street about 3 years ago, and any other traffic reports that have been done on the streets surrounding, because this is going to impact the feasibility of those streets at this time when this is developed. Already we have too much traffic. It's increased in the last 5 years from the over 30 years ago when that street was developed from a dirt road to a paved road. So, and I also speak to the environmental because we have all sorts of wildlife in our neighborhood. We have owls, we have foxes. I've even had reports of puma. I had a cat that was attacked by something and it broke its leg. So if that can happen, what's going to happen to animals in the neighborhood where it's being developed? So, but back to the traffic, I would like a copy of those reports if possible. And I want to thank you for your time, staff.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Mr. Dave Morrow.
Good evening. My name is Dave Morrow. I live at 3300 Adeline Drive, about 1/4 mile from the proposed egress point of the project. In general, I think it would be useful to continue the hearing until the traffic study is completed. There are 3 things that are in a letter that I submitted to the council that was signed by 28 of my neighbors. Essentially, we wanted a traffic study, we wanted construction equipment to be routed into the project outside of the neighborhood streets, and the 3rd thing is a dust control plan. We don't have the traffic report. It would be a little bit early to discuss the project at this time, and so I actually would like to see the continuance until the proper studies are completed and we have all the information we need to discuss it in a full way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Next up, we have Frank. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to
I'm
address the
Frank Andrew Lee, and I live at 520 Edgewood, and I've got numerous properties there in the Pogue community, which is Cameron Park. I've owned those properties since 1995, and I continue to have interest in Cameron Park. My history of this is I'm a CPA in Waco for 50 years, and I have helped with PUDs, in fact, starting originally with Mayor Davis to develop 3 acres I had on the way to Ridgewood. So I have worked with the cities, councils, the people that help put these developments together. Fred DeWald, I participated with him for at least several years to get Twin Rivers together. And I know it's a complicated situation that should be thought through, not lightly. And of course, you want the people living there to accept it for what it is, not what it should be. And for what it is usually a situation that comes later as to what you think it should be. So I just ask that a lot of consideration be given to the people in Cameron Park. I have been a part of the Cameron Park community since I joined there early in the 90s. And it's temperamental that you consider all of the traffic. I was a teenager going to Cameron Park to Lover's Leap. I know the traffic situation going up and down that area. To redirect everything from that area with 150 houses or more houses, whatever comes into the area, is not thoughtful. It needs to be very much concerned of everybody in Waco. The park, I participated when the JCs had the river boats coming on the Brazos River. That was considered for 3 or 4 years until we could finally get the council's blessing to give us those races on Cameron Park on the river. So I just ask a lot of consideration, and postponement is not bad. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Frederick. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Frederick Stribling. I live at 600 Marywood, Waco. What else would you like?
Just name and address.
That's good?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Nailing it.
I'll make this short. Y'all are proposing a new date, the 5th. I don't have a problem with what we're doing today. And I can tell you about all the things these other people are saying, because I've lived there for 50 years. I know that neighborhood. And like I said, I doubt if anybody's lived there longer than me that's been there. But I'll make it short, is that I have no objection, well, you want to can't talk very good, to propose changing the date. What I would ask, that it not be the 5th, that it would be a later date, it's already been suggested. And why? Let me think. The 4th is the day before, and everybody's on a holiday, and gee, let me think. If I didn't really want anybody to show up, what day would I pick? That would probably be the 5th. So I'm asking, out of the kindness of your heart, that you would postpone it to another date that's been asked for before. I won't argue with you about all the other stuff. We've had that discussion here before, but I would appreciate, if you're going to do this, you do it at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone else here to speak on the continuance? All right, I will entertain.
One more,
oh,
Mayor.
excuse me. Hi, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Jeanette Bell, 228 Spring Street, East Waco, Texas. I can understand the feelings of the Cameron Park neighborhood, their concerns, because we have some of the same concerns, okay? We need inclusivity in all the planning, procedures and processes, including having conversations with the developers so they know where we stand with development, if it's the kind of development that's going to make a social and economic impact that would not cause us to be relocated, displaced, or to experience more accelerated gentrification. Like them, we have lived in our community for decades. And we do not want to be forced to move to other areas because a lot of the housing development in our community is not affordable. There needs to be a new definition of affordable. We know we are experiencing a housing crisis because the population growth has been larger than housing construction. We need low-income, affordable, senior, transitional, workforce housing. Like, it's a house, $230,000. We live in a disenfranchised, marginalized, low-income community. No way we can afford a $230,000 house, okay? And we want to age in place. A lot of the population, the baby boomers are the biggest population now. We don't want to go nowhere else, okay? And it seems like it's more focused on tourism than on preserving the vested residents and communities and neighborhoods. Change your focus and you will change your mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Is anyone else here to speak on the continuance? Not, I will entertain a motion on the continuance.
I'll move that we continue this public hearing to July 19th.
Discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez. Bordereau,
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Palmer.
The next item to consider is public hearing 2022-369.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, amending the concept plan of the plan unit development known as the Dwyer Group PUD located at 317 Bosque Boulevard, said property being described as Lot 3, Block 1 of the Dwyer Addition, to add 2 parcels of land to the PUD, said parcels being described as Lot 6 and 7, Block 1, the Davlor Addition, known as 300 and 304 David Drive. Otherwise revise the concept plan to allow additional parking area and rezone the parcels Lot 6 and 7 from R2 to PUD, providing for penalties, providing for severability clause, and finding and determining that the meeting in which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. By a vote of 10-0, Plan Commission recommended approval of the amendment to the PUD based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions. 1, the proposed PUD is consistent with the land use component of the comprehensive plan, the purposes of Chapter 28 zoning of Code of Ordinances of City of Waco, and the plan unit development regulations. 2, the proposed PUD is keeping with the purpose and intent of the PUD ordinance by providing a high level of amenities and design standards while allowing flexibility in the use of development of the land. We do have 4 conditions that the final PUD plan must meet all development standards consistent with the concept PUD plan and the site requirements of the Plan Review Committee, including but not limited to the following: site grading and drainage, signage, regulations, parking, site coverage, access and circulation, gating, landscaping, refuse location and access, and fire protection location and access. The property shall be platted in accordance with the subdivision ordinance prior to the issuance of building permits, that an all-season landscape screen 4 feet in height or in width, densely planted with evergreen trees and shrubs, which have an initial height of 3 feet and will attain a height of 6 feet within 36 months after installation, shall be planted along the boundary shared with the adjacent single-family neighborhood, and that all site lighting must be directed toward the establishment and not the adjacent properties. Plan Commission also recommended approval of the request for rezoning from R2 to PUD based on the following findings. 1, the proposed PUD is consistent with the land use component of the comprehensive plan, the purposes of Chapter 8 zoning of the Code of Ordinances in City of Waco, and the plan unit development regulations. And 2, the proposed PUD is keeping with the purpose and intent of the PUD ordinance by providing high level of amenities and design standards while allowing flexibility in the use and development of land.
Are there any questions for staff?
Nope.
We will now open the public hearing for comments. Is anyone present who would like to speak regarding this item? Seeing no speakers, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval on first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield, Rodriguez.
Yes.
Aye.
Palmer.
The next item to consider is public hearing 2022-370.
Members of the council, this is a public hearing to consider an ordinance abandoning two approximately .117 acre tracts being a 65-foot wide portion of the right-of-way of South 21st Street between Block 17 and Block 10, Glenwood Addition to the City of Waco, McLennan County, Texas, as per plat of said addition recorded in volume 69, page 91 of the deed records of McLennan County, Texas, finding no duty to maintain, authorizing the city manager to execute quitclaim deeds, providing a severability clause, and finding the term at the meeting in which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. By a vote of 10-0, Plan Commission recommended approval of abandonment based on the following findings and with no conditions. The findings are that public use of the right-of-way is not required for proper flow of traffic or for emergency vehicle access to the area, that the abandonment will allow for better use of the adjacent building located at the end of South 21st Street, and that utility access for surrounding properties is not adversely impacted by the abandonment of the right-of-way.
Are there any questions for staff? No. We will now open the public hearing for comments. Is anyone present who would like to speak regarding this item? Seeing no speakers, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Palmer.
The next item to consider is the consent agenda. The following resolutions were pulled from the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. Resolution 2022-372 and Resolution 2022-373. Is there a motion on Resolution 2022-370? Was 372?
Yeah, you're thinking right. 372 is the one we're going to come back later on.
Okay, so it's just 373?
73.
Okay, is there a motion on Resolution 2022-373?
I move for approval on 373.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Councilmember Porterwood is disqualified. Bearfield. Rodriguez. Aye. Holmes.
Aye.
Palmer.
Next, we will consider the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of resolutions 2022-371 through 2022-393, with the exception of resolution 2022-372 and 373. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield. Rodriguez. Porterwood.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Palmer.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 2022-394.
This is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2002-0219 to increase the value of the percentage-based residential homestead property tax exemption from 10% to 15% of the appraised value and amending Article 3, Chapter 24, Section 24-48 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco, the Code, to provide for such increase, adopting a residence homestead property tax exemption of $50,000 for disabled persons, and increasing the residence homestead property tax exemption for persons 65 or older from $5,000 to $50,000, and amending Article 3, Chapter 24, Section 24-47 of the Code to provide for such new exemption and for such increase, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith, providing a savings clause, providing a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed, open the public as required by law, and declaring an emergency. This ordinance comes to council in emergency reading, which requires a favorable vote of 3/4 of all council members qualified and serving. And as council probably remembers, should it pass on the first reading, I'll read it again, and we'll take a second vote.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve the amendments to the ordinance as read.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez. Aye. Porterwood.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Palmer.
This is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2002-0219 to increase the value of the percentage-based residential homestead property tax exemption from 10% to 15% of the appraised value, and amending Article 3, Chapter 24, Section 24-48 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco, the Code, to provide such increase, adopting a residence homestead property tax exemption of $50,000 for disabled persons, and increasing the residence homestead property tax exemption for persons 65 or older from $5,000 to $50,000, and amending Article 3, Chapter 24, Section 24-47 of the Code to provide for such new exemption and for such increase. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing a savings clause, providing a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion?
I'll move again to amend as read.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield. Rodriguez. Borderoux.
Yes.
Holmes. Palmer.
Next item on the agenda is to consider ordinance 2022-395.
An ordinance granting to Encore Electric Delivery Company LLC, its successors and assigns, an electric power franchise to use the present and future streets, alleys, highways, public utility easements, public ways, and public property of the city of Waco, Texas, providing for compensation, therefore, providing for an effective date and a term of said franchise, providing for written acceptance of this franchise, providing for the repeal of all existing franchise ordinances to Encore Electric Delivery Company LLC, its predecessors and assigns, and finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance comes to council on first reading.
Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval on first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Bearfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez. Borderoux.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Palmer.
The next item on the agenda is the hearing of visitors. During the hearing of visitors section of the agenda, we provide an opportunity for the public to present concerns or address issues that are not matters for consideration listed on the agenda. Council is unable to conduct discussion, but will listen, ask questions, or ask staff to look into concerns and provide follow-up. Please provide registration information so the staff can contact you if necessary. If you have handouts, please let us know at the beginning of your presentation, and staff will distribute those to the council. If you are unable to approach the podium due to physical limitations, a microphone is available to be brought to you. I have two cards in front of me. First up, I have Mr. Ephraim Herring. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Ephraim Herring. I live at 1044 Chestnut and 1046 Chestnut. I'm talking today about zoning code chapter 28-8, section 89 and section 90. When you get ready to build a building, you got to get a permit, and permit's taken. And then after buildings get built, there's section 90 to issue a certificate of occupancy. One problem with that in the certificate of occupancy is it doesn't say in there on 28-90 who gets it. So if you're in distress, or you and your builders do not get along, or you know they have violated city code and regulations, you don't get a certificate of occupancy. Why that's important? Because you can appeal the building inspector. If you look at chapter, in 2014, y'all passed in chapter 6, section 67, appeal. That means you can appeal the building instructors, the building inspectors, and the building officials' decision. The reason why I bring that up is I still have not received that copy. You need a copy of that certificate of occupancy to do that, and you got 10 days. So I finally got a certificate of occupancy on the 7th of August, which it was signed the 24th of July, which is more than 10 days. So there should be something written in chapter 28-90 when you issue the certificate of occupancy that it goes to the owner of the property and not just anywhere. Because right now there's nothing saying in the documentation that tells you where that certificate of occupancy goes. But you got 10 days to appeal when you don't agree with the contractor and the building official's decision. You have a blessed day.
Thank you, Mr. Herring. Next up, I have Ms. Christine Nolan. Ms. Nolan, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Christine Nolan. I live at 3636 North 29th. I've come here tonight to, again, ask that the City Council remove itself, revise the ordinance that requires the City Council to approve short-term rentals. My husband and I, this is actually the one-year anniversary of the closing date on our home in Waco. We bought it specifically because it had a cottage that we could rent out. That was always our plan and intent. I've spent the last year renovating that cottage. And then at the city council level, some neighbors circulated a petition and we were denied use of our property. The STR system is flawed. First of all, I brought up that I'm a nurse, not because I require special treatment because of that, but because every year we're voted the most ethical profession. We lost after 9/11 to the firefighters, who are equally, or if not more so deserving. There are other professions like social workers, and I could name many more that could win that as well. But the payment system through the city relies on the honor system. You rely on the word of people who have an STR, of how many bookings they have, and how much money they owe the city. The city certainly needs the money. I'm sure you drive on the same roads that I do. The honor system only works where people are honorable, and I'm not questioning other STR owners. I'm just saying that it's a system that could easily be circumvented. There are ways to circumvent payment. People can book off-site and then collect payment. Also, zoning should convey with the property. I shouldn't have to go through, or another homeowner shouldn't have to go through the steps to get zoning, and then when they sell the property, the new homeowner have to go through those steps all over again. When HEB's lease is up, nobody says, oh, I'm sorry, HEB, you need to redo your zoning because this used to be agricultural. The zoning should stay with the property. Traffic density, all the things that were brought up as concerns are handled through zoning. One of the things that were cited by my neighbors is that there's an increased crime with STRs. If people make a claim, they have the burden of proof. There were no studies submitted because there are no studies saying that there's increased crime with STRs. I have brought tonight an email that I was sent, and forgive me for blacking out the information of the person who sent it because I didn't ask for the young lady's permission. I currently, I'm legally allowed to rent my property month to month or as a year lease, 6-month lease, whatever. So the only difference is the amount of time. That's more wear and tear on my property. My property is set up for short-term use as a very small closet. A very lovely young woman contacted me through a site that I have it listed on for month-to-month rentals. And she specifically requested nightly rentals because she's going to be working on a contract at a hospital and only needs to be in town a few nights a week, but wanted to set up a long-term arrangement with me. Legally and ethically, I cannot do that. I'm sure I could come up with some convoluted lease that would allow her use of my property, you know, a few days a week as a way to circumvent the system for STRs and not give the city anything and still meet the needs of this young woman. But I don't feel ethical doing that. So I'm asking you to look at changing this to make it more amenable for property owners. And my neighbors should have no say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak during the hearing of visitors? Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
My name is Janet Slaughter. I live at 5800 Caldwell Street. And I am up here concerned about a building at 5900 Clover. It is right next to the bank. We had visited with Mr. Holmes several years ago. He was concerned, said it was his neighborhood too, but there is a lady named Miss Tatum, Epiphany Soul, who has bought the building. We understand her lawyer told us physically that it was going to be 30 to 60 people that were being let out of prison to rehab them. It was going to be a halfway house. We asked them what kind of people. They said it was pedophiles, it was thieves, it was drug addicts, it was people that had, you know, assaulted people and everything. And we asked that man, he works at Baylor and he is also a lawyer, and we asked him, we said, well, who's going to protect the neighborhood? And he said, well, y'all are. He said, that'll be y'all's problem. He said, because she doesn't have enough money to have protection. Well, it kind of died down for a while, and now it's reared its ugly head again. On that piece of land, I have lived in that house for 57 years. There was nothing but field out there, and when they built that nursing home, there is a clause, and Mr. Holmes has found it, that says it can only habitat and be a dwelling for seniors. Senior people like a nursing home or an assisted living. It cannot be apartments, it cannot be a rehab, it cannot be a place for young people to come and do STEM or anything else. And if you'll look under her thing, she keeps changing the wording. The latest is she wants to engage brown and black into the 21st century. Well, what about white and Asian and Indian and everybody else? You know, we have every color in our neighborhood, and they have been there a long time, and we love every one of them. I am retired from Waco ISD. We don't see color. We see children. And I spent 35 years there, and I have lived in this town, and I was not one when I moved in there. Ha. But anyway, I have reached out, and nobody will answer me. We are having a lot of traffic as I'm sitting back here. There's a man that jumped my fence back there and walked through my yard a minute ago. They roam the neighborhood in solid black hoodie and black pants. I have got ring of them getting my neighbors and stealing their bikes, coming to my car. Everybody I have talked to in the neighborhood in the last 2 weeks, they have something missing. Somebody has stole something. And that just doesn't happen all of a sudden. But all of a sudden there's activity and Sam's trucks and delivering mattresses and beds. It cannot inhabit anybody but seniors because of that clause. Unless you have that clause is, I don't know. But I need your help because that's an old neighborhood with old people. We had a lady that was there when we were there. She was 102 and her daughter had to move her because when the activity started before, they were going into her garage and into her house. Does that mean I can't say anything else?
Your time.
I just need your help. And I want to know, we have been told that all she needs is a final okay from y'all that she's finally got her paperwork. And you said you'd let me know if that paperwork came through. So I just need your help for our, I'm after helping everybody. I work Journey to the Streets every Saturday. So it's just, we need help in that neighborhood. We need that not to happen.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak for the hearing of visitors? Seeing no one else, we will close the hearing of visitors. Are there any council members' reports on committees, boards, or commission liaison visits? I just want to offer a very happy Pride Month to all of our LGBTQ residents and city staff members. Happy to celebrate this month and create a community that is welcoming and inclusive for all. Are there any council requests for future agenda items?
I made my request for the renaming of possible Washington from MLK to 6th Street in honor of Lester Gibson.
Any additional? All right, there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 6:58 p.m. Thank you, everyone.